Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shannon Show. This is the second episode in Book Tag Tuesdays. There is one more book tag video coming up in June. I'm blanking on when I actually scheduled it for publication. But one of the upcoming Fridays in June, there's another book tag video that'll be posted. And that video will be the last book tag video that's not under Book Tag Tuesdays. And any other book tag video after that is going to be under the series. But with all that said, let's get into this tag, which is the I'll Get Around to It Later book tag. The first prompt is a classic book you have been meaning to read forever but haven't yet. And for me, that is And Then There Were Nine by Agatha Christie. I did get this leatherbound edition recently to match the Death on the Nile one. This is the Barnes & Noble leatherbound edition. But I've been wanting to read And Then There Were Nine for a while, forever almost, and I've been wanting to read Agatha Christie's other works. So I've read Death on the Nile, I liked it. I've read the other two stories that were in that, liked those ones as well. So might as well give And Then There Were None a shot, hopefully soon, but I kind of doubt that. The next prompt is a book on your shelf that you haven't read yet. Technically, a lot of the books that I'm showing in here are books on my shelves that I haven't read yet, and technically there's like at least one, this one here, that I haven't read yet. But for this one, I'm gonna go with Fate Be Changed by Farah Rochon. I love how shiny it is. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and this is a Disney twisted tale answering the question of what if the witch had given Merida a different spell. And no, I didn't feel like I needed to give a description for And Then There Were None, just because it is a classic, it is an older one, and most people know kind of the general premise of most of Agatha Christie's work. I don't feel like I need to give much of a description for that one. The next prompt is a book that you got recently that you haven't read. For me, that book is Guild by Raven Kennedy, and this one I got pretty recently. At the time I'm recording this, I got it like the Sunday before I recorded this video, so fairly recently, and I haven't read it. Part of my strategy when I buy new books is that I don't do book buying bans just because I know I'm not gonna make it. But what I do is that I don't force myself to try to read books before I buy more. When I do buy more books, I try to read the books that I've had on my shelf for a little while longer before I read any books that I bring in from the bookstore or from orders or pre-orders. I try to read the books that have been on my shelf for longer. But that doesn't always work, because the next prompt is a book that you've had forever but haven't read. And for me, that is The Princess Bride by, the thing is I want to say S. Morgenstern, because that's how it is in the movie. The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern by William Goldman. The full title is The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure. I love the movie, but I've heard that the book is not as great as the movie, so I have had this for quite some time, again forever, but haven't read it yet because I don't want to be disappointed by the book. It is starting to get really warm here in California, and it's only April at the time that I'm recording this. This is not unusual, but I always hate this part because it's like, we shouldn't be this hot. We shouldn't be getting to like the 90s plus or like 80s plus, and that's in Fahrenheit, and that's about like 20 to 25 C, but like it shouldn't be getting this warm already. Like, we've had a lot more rain in like March to April than we usually have during this time, but like it shouldn't be getting this hot either, and I don't like it. Anyway, the next prompt is a book that a friend recommended that you haven't read. For me, there are a couple of books that friends have recommended that I've tried reading and then DNF'd, but one that a friend did recommend is Crushed by Emily McIntyre. My friend recommended this to me because we both kind of do like the darker romances. For this, I wanted to read Emily McIntyre's other works before I got to this, and I read like the first one, Hooked. I enjoyed it. It's not the best, you know, it's not like I personally don't think it's some great masterpiece, but it is really fun for what it is. It's a pretty decent story for what it is. Once I read Hooked, I just decided to read them in publication order just so I could kind of see how things progressed from book to book, because this is a series, the Never After novels is a series where it's standalones, but they're under the premise of the villains getting the HEA, the happily ever after. But yeah, a friend recommended this one to me. I haven't read it because I still have to read Twisted before I get to this one. The next prompt is a book that you're procrastinating on, and for me that one is The Adventures of Indiana Jones. This is by various authors, and they're basically the screenplays of the movies rewritten and like reworked a little bit to make it into a book, a story story form, like a reading form. The movies are Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. I don't have like the best reason as for why I've been procrastinating on this, but at the same time, I don't have a good reason to read it. Partly because I love the Indiana Jones movies so much. I love Indiana Jones. I love the ride. The most recent movie was not it. Yeah, like I don't have a good reason to not read it, but I also don't have a good reason to read it, just because I am still a little bit traumatized from Dial of Destiny. I'm still a little bit mad at that, so we're not reading this quite yet. The final prompt is the next book on your TBR. I don't really have anything that's like, oh, next on my TBR, because part of it is because I am a mood reader, but also part of it is because it's like, I think it does pretty much tie into being a mood reader, but it's like, I don't like having like a list of stuff to read. Like I have a TBR pile that's kind of curated by Storygraph, but I don't like choosing ahead of time what's going to be next, because I may change my mind when I finish the book that I'm currently reading. I may not feel like that book that I had lined up next once I get around to reading it, and a lot of times I'm reading like 2 to 3 books at once, so what I start next is highly dependent on what format I finish, whether it's physical, audiobook, or ebook, so I really don't know what I'm going to read next, and it is what it is. That's it for this tag. I kind of don't feel like tagging anyone specific to do this, so if you want to do this tag, whether in a comment down below or in your own video, please feel free to do so. I would love to know other people's answers to these. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.